Yeah, hi, I am here for another vlog. And I just looked at my A to Z app and I'm kind of like, well, I VTO'd like at 2:55. The manager offered it to me. Don't want to give names. And so I was allowed to. I got my unpaid time use, so I'm like, well, that's not fair. I'll probably talk about it. I go to work today. Yeah, I don't know. I was offered, like, I'll be honest, there's a lot of other facilities that are way more difficult than now I like them better because of the room temperature, the temperature of the environment, right? I never felt internally complaining more than when I was in the freezer environment. Seriously, the Ever facilities are pretty nice. It's like hella easy. No, seriously, because the environment's nice, right? It's ambient temperature, right? I don't know what room temperature is. It's like 40. We'll see what it is, right? So if you ever worked in any warehouse facility, do not care about any of the rules. The biggest thing you should look for is the temperature setting of the room. Everything else is irrelevant. Actually, you want to know why people complain a lot about these facilities? Because you're forced to work in these freezing environments, right? Forget about KNET. That's the only thing you need to focus on. Regardless of the industry, if it's manual, if it's hard labor, right? It's the room temperature, right? Right? That's why productivity rates slump. You're better off doing work in ambient. Try to hunt for ambient work environments. Don't hunt. That's my only preference, right? Even if you're a machine, right? Because machines overheat or freeze to death under really cold temperatures. As a legitimate complaint. I don't mind staying there indefinitely, but people like me will be like, oh, legitimately, unless I'm paid more. Which I'm not, right? Right. $17.30. Oh, hell. I'm more than willing to show people my US bank account statement about how much I'm shorted by this company, right? Right? It almost feels like it's not worth really working hard. Unless I get food stamps or something. Right, I can tell you, I went from, I think holiday pay was like $1,000 to like $700. It's like a $300 decline, right? Dollar decline. I don't mind people giving me, I think I'm on a donation pay scale. But I would have preferred a notification. I guess it's a good sign, but I would prefer a notification or something. Because I definitely, the problem with a lot of businesses is that the amount of consumer demand that's there is completely dependent on my paycheck is dependent on your free set, is dependent on consumer demand, right? So you would expect that to make sense. Reality that I don't like talking about because I need to make a living somehow, but no one wants to be the truth teller because it ruins good things for, does it? I don't actually know. Long term it doesn't, right? Long term it makes things better. But that's assuming we live in a rational world, which I like to assume because that's what people like to tell themselves. Right? Everyone like to say we're sane, right? That's basically what you're saying, right? Right, we live in a rational economy with irrational actors, right? So I don't know how society's default state is sane, but you know, everyone likes to say that. Right? It seems like the economists say that the default mental state of society is insane. Insane is like the most non-insane there is, right? So, why am I talking about this? It's just worth complaining about. My main topic today is I'm here to talk about an ideology that I think needs to have a more flexible interpretation. It's about the false sexual accusation thing. If anyone wants to start a small business, one of the easiest ways is to figure out if you can prostitute resources from other people, as I like to call it. Yeah, just say you want to falsely accuse someone of rape. That's a way of A/B testing your drug empire, because you can falsely accuse people. Can't you do drug running and get resources from the Supreme Court? Yes, you can. Because right, if you can play the weak women card, maybe you can start your own business. That's one of the easiest ways, because venture capitalists aren't going to swoop in and give you cash, right? So you got to think about this long term. I don't think the system is going to change anytime soon. Yeah, why do I want to talk about this? I decided I can't pull this off. If I could, I probably would do it when I'm out. Because people they just don't know. They don't know how to. They should buy me off, so I stopped talking about this, right? Like a lot of the women should, right? No, they don't. This is called sellout edition. If they bought me off, I would shut up. It's a good thing. I'm ruining it now by talking about it. It's one of those things, like, the moment you talk about it, it's just ruined. Right? Pools closed for false allegations of rape now. I put that in quotation marks, because it's really a way of getting a Kickstarter fund for your own business. And the thing about the women that do it is that they ruin it too, because they're not spending it on trying to get customers, right? They get long-term wealth and independence. They don't do that. You know what they do? They just spend it all on beer, booze, and wine. They had a good system. They just changed their mind. It's 3D chess. Everyone else is trying to frame this as SJW. I have a unique perspective. Like, you can call me, like, I like to look at this as a way of cataloging yourself to an Amazon marketplace. Right? People aren't going to be playing about, I need money for, because you look at these programming jobs, they're not anywhere, right? They never were. Right, so how else do you get the money, right, that you want otherwise worked at the programmer? Yeah, so how do you get that cash? Well, you get into a relationship with someone. Mark Cuban's not coming. No one's giving you the Kickstarter fund for your own, ice cream chocolate factory business. Nothing's coming, buddy. Oil drillings, anyone hiring? Seriously, that's why I'm always like, college is a social gathering party, right? But no one wants the price tag associated with it. You want to know why? Because social networks are actually the real currency of the economy. Social networks that have a business conversion rate of sending money like 20% of the time, right? It is. That is the true wealth of any economy, is if you can have a social network. I'm talking about the same thing, essentially, right? Kindness, right? A social network that's kind, right? That's giving. And if you can find that network, that's worth anything. Now the problem is, that's what everyone from all these other Fortune 500 companies are doing. They're looking for those social networks, which, by the way, do not exist. They're like fiction, right? Because seriously, back then you had that social network. Like almost 80% of the time, they gave money. They protected you in case you're bankrupt. Right? Back then, like, sure, the tech sucked, right? There was no TV, there was no plasma, right? There was no iPad. But at least when you were $0, society would hate you and they throw stones at you, but at least they give you $500 when you're down on your luck, right? Or they give you a house to live in. That's what we missed out on the 20s. We missed out big. Today, they don't even do that. Sure, they have advanced tech, but no one's protecting you when you're bankrupt. Do you know how common it is, easy it is to get bankrupt these days? Right? What would you trade? Would you want to go back to the era where people protect you from bankruptcy and shout curse words at you at the moment? Society as a whole saves you from bankruptcy? Or would you prefer today's era where it's like, sure, you get the nice VR and stuff, but no one's going to give you $5,000 when you're bankrupt at $0, right? That is the trade-off. You get nice tech, right? You get hentai and stuff, but you don't get any of those. When I really need you, yeah, you're there for me. You don't get those cards anymore. Right? I would honestly prefer the primitive society, quote unquote. Modern tech has created a society where people don't save their ass when they need it. Yeah. That's why I prefer the past. In that sense. Right now, if you get both, that's a different story, right? Both the tech and that kind of mentality. But the problem is you don't get both. The one that you need gets shorted. As society increasingly goes to more and more tech. Because the rich get less personal wealth. Because then you start thinking, I need to protect the rich people. Right? Because they're the ones that give me my free booze, my jobs, right? That's what the jobs are. That's their liquor. Right? Because I can't start my own business, right? No, seriously, I'll literally throw money if I could actually see a fund like that. Some program, yeah. Doesn't matter the price tag. Give me a programming job, I don't care. Doesn't matter whether it's programming or not. Give me a club's like, well, you throw businesses, rich guy, he'll give me a promotion position eventually. I don't care, maybe it lasts 30 hours or something. Not 30 hours, sorry, 30 years. Right? Or something like that. Give me a bump program, I'll pay. I'll try to see if I can save up to $1,000, but you know, this stuff I won't fib on. Now, if you promise to start my own business, that's a different story. This is a membership fee that I'm willing to pay. Do you know how many... They used to offer these clubs, the rich boys, the old boys club, right? Back then. That's what it was. No one wants to talk about it anymore because America doesn't like talking about money. Yeah, I'm not Asian. I'm just pro, in my opinion, whatever works for the economy, which isn't really exactly what's rational, but you know. But that's what it means by pro-rationality. Yeah, if you ever, if anyone likes to, this is the type of topic that makes people not like each other because it's money. No one likes talking about money, not even the Asian people, right? But at least they have a conversation, right? I try to be more transparent. I'll always offer. Now, I'm not going to let you see my password. But I'll let you see my bank account statements. I'm poor. It's weird because the rich act poor too. Which I don't understand, actually. They're very, seriously, I don't understand. Well, if you look on their bank account statements, I almost guarantee you they spend a lot on hookers and blow. Yachts and stuff, but they always don't spend it on personally reinvesting on their business. If I was rich, that's what I would do. I would spend most of my time personally reinvesting myself into, UBI and stuff, seeing which poor people I can move around to corral the other poor. Why? Because they complain less and they'll give me more money because there'll be small business barrier islands to protect me. You would not want me as a CEO. So you buy me off. Because I, as a CEO, if I see an HR complaint from a big complainer, it's like, huh, he looks like a future business CEO. You want to subvert your movement? Oh no, that would be my daily practice as an SJW. I wouldn't even hesitate. I'm impressed by your LARPing. It's time to start your own business, buddy. Oh, you got 1.1k votes on Reddit? You want to get bought off? Right? Being a CEO happens regardless of how well you perform, right? How well your sales are. It's about market and sales. This is sales, right? A 1.1k upvotes, that looks like sales to me, buddy. Yeah, there's a lot of buying off. I don't really, when I look at a complaint, I see an opportunity to make money. I don't see any other opportunity. You guys are pretty disabled. You should talk to me instead. It's pretty obvious you're watching my stuff. Be lucky I'm not flipping you the middle finger. Anyways. Society has a rule. It's called civility. You need to learn how to follow it. If you don't want to follow the rules of civility, you should go to timeout. Rules exist for a reason. You pay me, I'm nice. Right? This is a rule that I think any hobo would follow. Right? Right? That a video from the homeless guy spits some truth. Would agree. So anyways, this setup, one of the other reasons I do these kind of setups, because if you can't draw an audience, you can't start a business. And now I can present a convincing case, right? Because you can't always throw money at the screen to start a business. You want to see if you can draw in an audience, right? Because that's the only way the venture capitalists even come. Right? So PewDiePie can start his own business if he's not selling merch already. Did he ask venture capitalists, right? Right? If you offer yourself an offer up, that's basically a business, right? You're a freelancer. But freelancers, I don't know if they make money or not these days. Yeah, if anyone asks, I'm doing a lot of acting. I hate that I have to clue people in on it. Makes me disappointed. So, let's think about this. Agenda. Let's look at some of the things I'm concerned about these days with the state of things. Yeah. As an SJW, different stance on the false accusation of rape. Good way to gather funds for your business. I do not view it as a discriminatory thing of hating women. Now, I would love to hide behind that excuse, because then people start getting really skeptical of each other. Right? You can't say plainly what you're up to, because it ruins it. You lie. And a lot of people, if you ever go to a nurse, if you ever go to Harborview or any of these other hospitals, people just lie about what they're diagnosed with so they can get stuff. This falls under that category. Because people make all sorts of excuses to get out of a relationship. It's America. It's the West. Yeah, it's the West. Look. Rather than, because I'm not getting any of this stuff, right? If I actually got to school, I succeeded, I wouldn't even be talking about this. I'd be gaming the system like everyone else. Why wouldn't you? Because if the rich do it, why can't you? By the way, the poor people also game the system and get stuff from the witch, right? I think Harvey Weinstein got taken down, right? Who knows? I hope those women, the moment I saw that, I was like, I hope those women started up a successful startup company, right? Because they got the money. And my guess is no. They probably had the idea at some point. I don't think the media will cover it, but this is one of those things you don't talk about. It just works. It's like money, right? It's like, you see that rich guy, he's your ATM bank, right? For a startup business. And if you're a business competitor, that's what I would do. I'd send a bunch of chicks and I would get them to spend money on them. And then I'd try to cipher corporate intel from them, right? Why wouldn't you? They spend money on yachts. They spend money on women. Why wouldn't you do that? Right? Why don't you do it on... Now, Buffett's got nothing. He seems smarter. He's played this game before, right? He's the ideal version of Bill Gates. You can't learn from Buffett yet. You gotta learn from Bill first. He's more plain about how to start out like Buffett. If you're disabled, if you have a learning disability like me anyways, right? If you're a complete cripple, always think about if you want to start out doing stuff. Now, whether it succeeds or not, it's a different story. Depends on your genetics, right? Your skill level, and the right time and the right place for economics, right? Right? The time of when the economy actually was real was probably back in the 60s or 50s. And by then, the only people from the silent generation that functioned are the people from the royal bloodline, which is like the Fortune 500 companies, right? right? Those ones you can actually tie to Adam and Eve. You can't tie us back to there. So why are they successful? It's because it's implied the silent generation from the 20s, from the Dust Bowl, who actually started the most businesses, they're still alive today. And the families, you know, the descendants, the actual descendants are from the Fortune 500 companies. They still talk to them. They're way older than 80, I'll give you that much, or 100. So those are the only ones with any edge, and that was the only time the economy functioned. 1900s, early 20s, those were the only times the economy actually had something. The Dust Bowl was the only time. That was the only time there was an economy. Now, there is no economy. We've been riding on the coattails of the wealth generated from that class. And that class took advantage of the other productive people, right? They all tried to kill themselves with whiskey. They did drug running because they didn't want to live anymore after getting exploited for so long. Right? There were a bunch of Thomas Edisons back in the day. Right? The Weimar Republic, in my opinion, was the time of when the economy was real. And there was actual job employment for all of them. Because people were willing to start up businesses after like 10 or 20 years of working as a corporate wage slave. That's a better system, right? Do not look at GDP growth. Look at the feedback loop system. Never look at GDP growth. That is fake news. I wasn't going to talk about this until, if I got a job, I wasn't going to bother. I was going to be like, I'm going to go coast off, go hide like Bill Gates in New Zealand. Why would I care? There really is job security. Now, I think it's possible, in my opinion. I may do it. I actually am going to game for it. I hope so. If I offer enough sales proposals to Amazon, I wonder if they'll bite someday. I'll spend my free time. Yeah, I don't care what I offer up. I'll literally just see how much money I can charge. If I can get like some detailed like art and stuff, I wonder if I send enough free stuff. If I can get a pay bump or anything. I don't care anymore because like there's no way I can start a business. Right? Unless I get a good social node network, which exists regardless of money, which does not exist for a lot of businesses, right? Not that kind of friendship, not anymore. I have to go the promotional route, which I don't care about. I don't mind doing the like multiple jobs. I'm flexible on that because I need compensation. I don't care what I offer. Like right now, if you can give me something that generates revenue, I'll literally show off like 20 grand already from my 54K in my bank account. You give me something legitimate, not like, oh, you look at my Wix Designer Club. I'm offering you a website, right? That's not legitimate, okay? And at this point, neither is school for me. I got to think about this one. That's why I'm trying a bunch of stuff, because I can't tell. I need a filter. I'm developing a filter system right now, too. Right? People invest when something legitimate comes. You do not invest when it's fake. Okay? That doesn't work for anyone. See this iPhone? It works. I press the power button and a screen pops up. Oh! I'm going to call Amazon on this. I invested in an Amazon DSP business. What am I seeing? What are my returns? Look, you want me to shell 10 grand, you give me something legitimate. I'm ready for something legitimate. Give me an ROI graph where like, oh, you can make 5% returns with a social network eventually, right? I'll hire X amount of positions. You give me an accounting financial statement spreadsheet with like, you got these depreciation costs, you got these equipment costs, you got cost of goods sold, right? Give me revenue. You give me something where it's like, I guarantee you this minimum UBI financial statement, I am game. You give me something right now, I will invest. If you don't give me that, fuck that. No offense. I'm trying to modulate my language. You give me something right now, I will not buy. If you don't, I won't even hesitate. You send me something to the mail right now. You give me all the paperwork, right? You give me like the contract, like the W-2 work form, whatever the hell it is. You give me a legitimate A/B testing strategy, and I will invest right now. Now, if you don't give me that, I think, no offense, trying to close my eyes, I think you're full of it. Because we live in a triggered society, and Stipes did ban me. And I got banned. Oh, God. I got banned talking about Philosopher's Stones, too. A legitimate way to create Philosopher's Stones on YouTube. People are really triggered these days. I don't know why. I'm an SJW. I know it's hypocritical. I'm talking about being triggered and stuff. Let me self-amend myself by saying I always study the other side as an insurance policy. As a leftist, and that means oftentimes I may use words that I don't intend to mean what I say. So you gotta think about this. Ever wonder why a lot of the, anyways, yeah, this is one of those things. And it wouldn't just be me. A lot of these streaming sites would totally invest 10 grand. You want to know why? Because a lot of, like Annie Junkie, anyone remember that site? It got taken down because everyone kept getting stuff for free. People use script block or whatever to block the ads. This is the problem. People are always determined to get stuff for free. Look, we live in a capitalist society. It doesn't work like that, you guys. This is what the problem I have with cheddar, right? When you only have money as a currency and it's not trade and barter, which is too much work to maintain, right? Because you got to have all these individual equivalent exchanges. You know why alchemy was popular, right? That's because trade and barter was one of the big reasons, because trade and barter was a popular system. You heard of equivalent exchange. They're talking about trade and barter, right? I trade you 5, let's say, Amazon Whole Foods 365 Market milk dairy products for a piece of anime drawing. We had these equivalency systems. We're trying to go back with crypto. It was an efficient system. I think it's like infinitely superior. I know that's a meme. Compared to because you can't always give money, right? You might want to give your time to help, like, grow some food, right? By the way, the richer were a lot richer. You want to know why? Because some of them are like, well, I want a product. How about I just give you like 50 yachts instead? Yeah, you just look at their wish list. They used to have wish lists they give out. These are the only exchanges I accept. That's also why Santa Claus was a thing. And you can blame the Pleiades for the collapse of that system. They got lazy. They got everyone sold out on money, right? Like, oh, fiat's worth everything. They were prostitutes back in the day. And prostitutes benefit the most from cash. Because prostitutes, as you find out, don't offer anything. Long run. Well, worth calling out. Don't care for the globalists. Worth dying for. Right? They had to actually give useful information back then, right? How to find the right chicks, right? So you can build your own little harem, right? And they're all female. Yes, you would call them out. Yes, you would. Because you were richer back then. Right? Sometimes you asked for an Area 51 military base, right? Oh, yeah, we missed out on so much back in the medieval ages. You want to know what happened there? Oh, the Dark Ages happened. That basically said they went dark, right? Right? They try to kill everyone with the Black Plague, all the rich people too. Try to profit all the wealth. I'm telling you right now, people just don't want to talk about this. And the joke is the Enlightenment period is the rich understood the Pleiades were at the top of the food pyramid. And the quintillionaires were at the bottom. They should always be $0, right? Personally, compared to the Pleiades. I know, you deserve a call out. A mandatory call out. Yeah, I don't even see them anywhere on the news. Not even like a brief mention. They ruined a pretty good capitalist system, actually. It was resource-based. Rich were like, oh my god. They were like quintillionaires plus, oh dear lord. They probably got like a bunch of like Final Fantasy magic spells. They all left, I think. They just left for another universe. That's my guess. Especially given the weird esoteric drawings they have. You ever notice Anubis? Anubis was just a hella like Bill Gates, like infinitely richer than Bill Gates version of Bill Gates, right? That was basically a guy. He's like, I want to transform into an animal. Yeah, because an animal has superior genetics to a human, and I can create more APIs, right, at a faster rate, because I'm of the belief system that animals are superior to AI. Especially an animal with brain cells. I wanted to become a dinosaur, right? A dinosaur is a superior version of a human. So natural selection changed, and that's how so all the deities are basically animals, and if you're asking, yes, the Pleiades organization got. I have to focus on them because no one's talking about them on the news right now. I've always known about them, sort of. I just never wanted to deal with them. I just don't complain to HR. I just assume people were smarter. I don't talk too much. I guess they're a little more irrational than I thought. Because they actually believed, okay? That's the problem. They actually believed what they're saying. Because I know I was taught that at a young age. Like my mom, I didn't realize my mom actually believed what she was saying, right? I thought it was just a quote-unquote mark. Because I thought she still knew the game, but doesn't know the game. Anyways. The joke in human life is because people are bad parents, you have to put the believe on quotation marks, right? This does not happen in a society with a functional family unit. That's what happens when you're short. Now, what was understood is that the employer was always the parent, right? Okay, I already mentioned this before, but you know. Right, when you're a bad parent, your employer becomes your parent, right? And your grandparents are HR. That is a universal constant. Now, when a rich person hears that, and I assume they already know this. They just want to make more money. Or they're okay with being nicer to the poor, right? I always assume that's what it was. Because if they homeschool, they actually get richer. Because there's no HR complaints. Right, no false accusation among the rich. The rich just become trillionaires by default. I'm always surprised. I thought, I guess the rich are nice to the poor people this time. Because it's guaranteed at least 10% of them will start their own business because they're grateful to be employed by a corporation. You don't even need to talk about it. It just happens. Trust me, it's true. Don't even need to complain. People wanted to get away from the homeschooling model because some of the homeschoolers wanted to profit off of their followers, which I call employees. I'm serious. People just, think about it. Think about how the school model benefits. What they do is they create a monopoly, and so they do the windmere gambit or the Primerica gambit, where they create colleges. They split off like 20% of their company and they turn it into something called a school. Now the joke is they're already a school. So they spend their free time creating a school where all the employees that are trying to move up actually go to that school to get training in these other corporate job roles and responsibilities. And they guarantee, because it's a trade school, right? There's no such thing as college. That's fake news. It was just a trade school originally. College originally was basically a bigger version of it's like an omega trade school. It was just bigger. And the joke was, what they did is they tested new tech because they invested in magic. And what the joke was that they use magic, money can flow out of nowhere, right? They can magically create resources. So how they angled it was that the schools, that's why alchemy was like this big thing back then. Right? It was called visualize. You ever heard of visualizing and affirmations? If you keep affirming something, something happens. It's basically on the same concept, except it actually happens. You think you're rich, all of a sudden $5,000 appears out of thin air. That's why they did the school system, right? They trained all the monks to create mana pools, right? That was the whole point. So they can boost certain affirmations. You can say, I'm not sure I believe that. I'm just putting this out as a theory because that's what it seemed like was going on. So, and the conditions were they learned certain stuff that they believe generate wealth. And 100 grand would just suddenly appear out of thin air. Now, the school system is not layered that way anymore. Because what they found out was that the thing is, the more anyone else kept using that magic, the more they had to do more work to get the same money, right? Because they had higher expectations of their boss. So what they did was they switched the system back over after like a certain years after it functioned for 10 or 20 years. So they kicked the can down the road like Social Security back in the Middle Ages. So a lot of the homeschoolers became the a-hole billionaires or a-hole quintillionaires or infinity earners, right? And they did that once the Pleiades shorted them. Right? Because they got lazy too, because they relied on the Pleiades to give relevant products. Ever look at their success rate on it? I don't know if you ever look up Epstein's Island. If you ever look at their success rate, it's pretty bad. They charge insane rates. They used to not do that back then. They got shorted. I don't know if the women will even call them out these days. They're way richer. Before they're like, oh God, I think they were like billionaires and the others were like sort of like billionaires too. They're around roughly the same wealth. It's like, unacceptable. I need to be a quintillionaire right now. Right? They were quintillionaires before the joke was, but they were forced to reinvest 80% of their capital to their actual business operations to keep that wealth. They wanted to shift the wealth to something easier. It was like, well, I wanna reinvest 80% of my wealth to like get engaging in gay relationships, right? And Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't want to reinvest into something legitimate. While at the same time keeping my profit margins high. That's basically what happened in the Middle Ages. Which explains our current melees in the economy because they're still doing that. Along with the other... that's why I talk about starseeds back on Facebook. Along with the other... I don't know. The other 18 great houses. I don't know what you call them these days. I think that's what they were called back then. And a lot of the billionaires from back then, you know, they're a massively shorted version of what they once were. And then, of course, they poured it away when the UFOs came. They got abducted. Yeah, it's sad. Why I talk about this? It just inspires so much rage. The joke about being rich is no one likes each other. They probably hate each other the most because they all shorted each other the most. And they all know about the old rich class that shorted the most. Right? The old money has always been new money. That's the joke. They're just older new money. Yeah. Do they want to call them out publicly? I don't even know if the news media will even cover it. Or the YouTubers will either. Now, there's people who are like 500 years old. You suspect it. You know it's true. They're just shorting you. Ever see any of those Greek gods or any of those deities? Those are alive, in my opinion. Now, the rich won't say anything, but at this point in time, I assume they call them out already. Well, they know they're alive. They don't like them. They gave business tips, quotation mark. Yeah. You do the polar pyramid scheme once you do something legit. Then you make more money and then cash off, right? Because it's not worth keeping long-term wealth. It never was. Right? You're in an entropy universe. You have entropy coded in your DNA. Trust me, you do. That's why the genetic gene pool is kind of a... that's why this universe was probably gonna die out eventually. I wouldn't trust any radiocarbon dating for the universe. I would look at, well, instead, what I would look at are geopolitical variables to figure out what the lifespan of the universe is. Because you don't quite because if you're a scientist, you don't quite understand how everything works, right? Right? Chemical reactions kind of operates much like a supply chain, right? System. Right? So if you screw up politically, right? You tend to get an explosion. So I think if the Earth explodes, I think that's what the central Earth theory is. I don't remember. The round Earth theory, whatever. It's like the Earth is the center of the universe. That's what I think that's what they're actually talking about. It's not the center of the universe, but I think if the Earth explodes, everything else explodes like a chain reaction. People weren't just playing about it. It's not technically not the center, but you know what I mean. It's like the one bomb that blows up the other bombs. And the joke is the other planets used to have life, like I said before, but then they got shorted by... I always like blaming the Pleiades for this. Because it's hard to think about how the other 18 even move these days. I don't even know if... Is the Sirius Dog constellations going anywhere? I think they all gave all their power to them. So I think you have to mainly blame them. Because if you look at what books even being published, it's either the Seven Sisters or the Pleiades. Everything else is just unknown. They don't exist. Yeah, that's just the thing. You try. I think the Earth had, let's see. I was surprised Epstein getting shot and killed didn't end the universe already. I guess they all protected themselves. I was kind of hoping that would. I don't know. I'm sort of a nihilist. Because the Greek gods would have been annihilated in Epstein's Island. I kind of saw that. I didn't care. I just wanted to go to school and leave. Just watch the billionaires waste all their money. Yeah, I don't know. We live in a very sad time. Yeah, I'm still wondering if we were going to wake up from the melees of pretending like Donald should be the only candidate we should hope for. Why don't you guys, like, I'm on the bottom. I'm willing to start anything. Donations, charities, you name it, right? If it means I get a stable job. I'm pretty desperate for a stable job with job security because the traditional college education route's closed for me. Right? I'm willing to do some job running, you know? I may not check all the boxes and circles, right? Whatever you call it, for a job requirement list, but I definitely can't get there, right? Life is all about improvement, right? I'm willing to debate with the job recruiter on this topic. Right? I'm willing. I may not know Docker, but I can make a really good argument for having HTML and CSS and creating a game patch update system someday. And then you won't even have any need for these other programming interfaces. I would have been doing that because I don't have a degree. People just assume competency from the degree. I don't get the benefit from that assumption. So I've talked about this before. Go to a school, you can. Boot camp, it's kind of iffy, right? Yeah, if you're wondering, everyone hated each other in the Middle Ages. Because, and the joke was everyone was a fence sitter, but they knew how to move to get everyone to hate each other, move themselves in separate camps to get themselves to hate each other. The joke is politics, there never was a compass. It was just people in the middle who knew how to play the game of chairs in the office and move into separate camps depending on the issue. Right? They used to make jokes like something similar to like, oh, magic exists for the reason. It's the same as the Second Amendment exists for a reason. Well, it's true. I don't like guns, but I want to express a certain emotion towards you. It involves pulling a bullet to your head. It's a fantastic feeling if I could succeed. We're discussing money right now. The Chinese do feel that way about each other. That's why they kind of want to move away from that culture. even though it works. And that's the same for the Dust Bowl. People just wanted to move away from that feeling, wanted to feel good, right? They all did. It's like, well, the Pleiades shorted me first. I'll short my employees next. That's pretty much what happened. That's called the Great Death, whatever you want to call it. That's why it was called the Dust Bowl, because they knew it was going to last a short amount of time. And the real death was, I think America had its own Gilded Age. The Great Depression was, the Great Switch came after, I think it was like World War I or World War II. They used 2 world wars to get them out of that business system. So what they were planning on doing was they wanted to kill off their employees and take their gold, right? So they sent them in and they drafted them as soldiers in a war. So the rich would then basically act like robber barons, which is what the term came from, I think, as robbers. And they would, once they die off, the banks had an agreement where they basically, or the rich made a run for it and shorted the banks too. And they took all the money from their employees. It was Order 66 time, right? That was World War I. World War II, same thing. And they wanted to steal money not just from the United States. They wanted to steal it from the other European countries too. And that they used the United States as a cipher for the First World War. Second World War, they wanted to erase all the data, right? This is called the Great Theft, which the rich do. Yeah, look this up. That's how I interpret history. How much do I have time left? 46 minutes. I'll keep talking. Yeah, and then after World War II was the... then World War II was like the great high. So what they did to erase data, because the U.S. remember, hey, look, there might be data. World War II comes by. Well, there's a lot of other actors, like suspicious actors around that have sneaky motives for engaging in that war. It is not because Germany, right? It is not for geopolitical reasons. They're hiding behind that as a mask. Right? There just weren't enough promotional positions. So what's the solution? Because they figured out, oh, they don't want to keep that feedback loop system. So what's the solution? Kill them all. Both the European rich, homeschooler rich, and the North American ones, they all plotted. And they forgot about World War II. World War III was supposed to involve all the nations, so all the rich got even richer. Keep the system up and kill them off, right? That's why World War III hasn't happened yet. Because they kind of forgot about how the system worked. They just dicked around too much. People do that all the time. You just slack off, you forget why certain things work. You believe the lie. Anyways. What else to talk about? Okay, I'll talk. So, World War II, Germany comes by, right? And the great erasure is the fact that they needed 2 world wars just to double check to make sure people did not remember what the business scheme was. They were getting called out still. It's like, okay, we need another cleansing. The United States had like multiple actors with shifty financial motives, right? Right? So people try to form drug rings back then to fight back against the rich that exploited them on the First World War. They knew they got shorted. It's like, okay, let's have another world war as an insurance policy. So there were other actors that seemed like, well, I also want to live forever at the same time. I know the UFOs were here. I'm going to make an agreement with the UFOs to kill off my fellow citizens. That's why you saw a lot of UFOs for World War I and World War II. Those are enemies, depending on which side they're on. They were also basically the central banking clan, right? There's the Celestials. You can't attack them. They don't like humans. They just think they're stupid. Right? They don't want... during that time, they took advantage of the situation. They ported a lot of people who died in the Holocaust as... Okay, I should stop talking about this, but... Because we're wading into dangerous territory. People who died turned into spirits, and they experimented on them. On the UFO ships, right? That's why if you go to a Fortune 500 company, I hear a lot of haunted tales sometimes of like spirits. They originated from there. I can talk about scions before, so if anyone wants to recover that, if you're a YouTuber, go ahead. I think it's valuable. Right? This is the problem. The people are just like, well, it's cool, the UFOs are... Nah, they're trying to capture your DNA, right? They can splice your genes with a it's called a biometric UV ray. They can collect your biometric data by just basically shining a light on you. They don't necessarily have to experiment on you. They just experiment on you because it's funny. Yeah, they just kept doing it, and they kept doing it, and so then once they got rid of the First World War, they finally quieted down. So the first two World Wars was actually a cover for a union protest. Right, the unions protested by all forming separate small businesses to attack the large ones that were trying to rob all the money from them. Collapse the system and, be greedy and retire. They hate the fact that the rich weren't greedy enough, right? Right, they weren't fulfilling their obligations of long-term wealth. Because the joke about business is people want to retire. Right? Because it's entropy. You feel incentivized, right? You don't want to keep a long-term system running. Like, why do you think obesity is popular? People don't care. It's too much work to keep a functioning diet system running, right? I would have preferred to live back then. At least there was a functional Asian culture system. At least I could have been a bookkeeper and hide. Yeah, it's not worth telling society anything. Just let them believe the nice lie, right? Of politics. Yeah, just throw the dice with Mark Dice, Drink some champagne in the pool with Tim Pool. Just gaff your way with that, with Alex Jones. Just entertain yourself, right? It's funny to watch rather than talking about this. Because no one's addressing this. And meanwhile, ignore the ANCAP question, right? As an insurance card. Just ignore a bunch of stuff. I don't even care. Yeah, there's just questions you need to ask yourself. It's just what it is. Like, people have various motives. I've always known. People have various interests. Yeah, so you should expect that depending on the circumstances, people don't like each other. Now, the trick behind this is you got to think about how to get people to think in a certain way. That's too much hard work for Karl Rove, right? Because that's the whole point of having polls, because people change their mind depending on what topic it is, right? And how you explain stuff to people. Or concepts you introduce. Yep, just remember. Just everyone remember to vote in 2024, where we all pretend to believe that Donald Trump may make a comeback. I'm not seeing anything on the news changing anything. I heard there's a 4th COVID shot. Oh, yeah. Next thing we know, we're going to have a 10th COVID shot. I'm still waiting for them to negotiate with China. So COVID-19 goes away. Right? And so we don't waste our time implementing really stupid government mandates. We could be negotiating more jobs with China, right? Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, no one's going to change anything. You talk about this, people just get worse and worse. The maturity level of the American populace is at 0. Much rather believe in the left and the right. The big lie. Kind of wondering if that's the way to start a business, just lie to people. Because I haven't gotten any viewership anywhere. Just maybe report fake news. I'm here to just make a sustainable business model because nothing works without money. Anyways, I gotta go end this discussion.